again, bodybuilding fans around the world. Welcome to another episode of Primetime Muscle. I'm Tim Wilkins, as always, joined by these two amazing guys, the real deal, Chris Cormier.
Real deal.
Real deal, show us those amazing shoes.
Oh, you don't want to see it, do you?
You got the flexibility to get those things up?
I do.
Woo! It says Louis Vuitton on the bottom. We won't show you the dirt. Let's go over to a man with normal shoes on that don't cost a car payment. Tarek Gilgindi, hello, my friend.
Great to be here, Tim. Great to see Chris Cormier. I have to say he looks stylish. I don't think I can fly with that kind of outfit, but I admire him for his audacity to bring it up.
Well, Chris dresses like a champion. There was another guy this year that talked and said he was going to be champion. Yeah. A whole lot of trash talk coming out of the men's physique division with the one and only Erin Banks. And Erin backed it.
Banks, man. He brought the shape. I mean, his aesthetics really improved in this competition. His back has improved. He always had those amazing abs, which you can't buy. You got to really work for those. And yeah, I mean, he had this big, large frame, hard to deal with.
So he was up against a brick wall named Brandon Hendrickson.
Tim, one of the lives on Olympia TV, I asked him, what do you have to do different to win the Mr. Olympia? And he looked at Brandon Hendrickson, he looked at everybody on that live, and he said, nothing. All I have to do is to bring what I did in Boston. And then people started talking about Diogo Montenegro and how great he was, and Erin said, he was behind me in both shows. He challenged everybody and himself to be the number one. And when time came, he actually became the number one.
When you're the lead dog, the view never changes. All it is dogs breathing down your neck. So he stepped up hard. He shocked a lot of people. And, you know, there's been kind of a revolving door in men's physique for the last couple of years. You got guys left and right changing hands. You had Chiron chomping at it. You had Brandon. You had, how am I doing this? Out of Pittsburgh, my friend. Raymond Edmonds. Yes. Raymond. And Raymond took the year off. Ryan Terry came back and looked insane. Put on a lot of size, brought great conditioning. But we got to go up and look at the big board, and we got to look at these guys. And you guys noticed something from the first call out that I'm just going to let play out. And you guys, here comes Tony Roberts.
See, what Banks is telling me right now is he got the whole thing locked up, hands behind his back. He's locking them up like they handcuffed already, like he's got it. He feels like he got the competition already. What do you think?
Okay, guys, I want everybody to pay attention to this lineup. We have Chiron Holden, we have Charjo Grant, Ali Bilal, Erin Banks, Diogo Montenegro, Corey Morris, Ryan Terry. There's one guy here that's not on this call out. There's one competitor that's not on this call out. His name is Edivan Palmeira, and he's right here. He's not on the first call out, okay? He's not on the first call out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 great competitors. And we have a competitor that's not on the first call out, and he finished on the top 5. You know what that tells me, Tim? That you should never, ever give up. All this talk about I was on the first call out, I was in the center, that's BS. Never give up as a competitor, even if you're not on the first call out. Like this guy, continue to pose, continue to battle, and he actually beat 4 guys that are on the first call out.
All right, let's pause this if we can, please, Erin. All right, back. Physique is about some back. Let's take this back just a touch. Look at the lat spreads, the rear delts. Walk us through some of this, Chris.
Well, I mean, as you notice, first thing you see the guys here, but you notice the guy, like Tarek said, these guys basically dropping their arms, dropping their emotions out of their face, dropping the intensity. They feel like they're defeated. That's a mistake. You always got to feel like you have a fighting chance to finish, in the top 5 or in the first, with the guys who win the first call out. But you see the width of the lats from Banks. I mean, Henderson is right here. He knows he's going to have to improve some muscle development. I'm not saying like overall crazy size, like he has what he has, but the way he's developed is going to have to improve if he wants to move up.
Now, Tarek, I complain about this all the time. These guys get bigger every year. The men's physique division has been a size contest where it was supposed to be a balance, symmetry, and conditioning contest. Every guy here has conditioning, but there's a couple guys like Brandon has just gotten massive. I don't know that he could make the weight for classic physique, but look at the arms. The arms are massive, and there was complaints that Erin Banks didn't have big enough arms.
Well, let me tell you, the shorter you are, the more dense you're going to look. And Brandon Hendrickson needed to be careful with a few items, such as the shoulders, which possibly can overpower, and the arms. Now, when you talk about men's physique, you talk about being streamlined. So the shorter you are, the more cautious you have to be about the amount of muscle you have. Now, all these guys are in great conditioning. So the leaner you are, the bigger you look. But if you get some of them close to you, they're not as big as a Ramon Dino, a Cbum, or Urs Kalecinsky. What I want to show you guys is that on the back pose, Chiron here, Love Chiron, has won more than 10 pro shows. It's a bit watery, okay? Now you look at Erin Banks, he's in top performance. Right here, Brandon, a little bit watery, and that has been his issue when he lost the title before.
You saw it from the judges' booth. Before you move on, you say watery.
A little watery on the lower back.
I mean,
look, I think it's development.
But you've got development, you've got striations, you've got.
But if he can get some more size here,
he needs to have a little bit more separation on the back to go against some of these guys. Look at his back compared with Charjo Grant, who plays fourth. Now, you're talking about being a little bit overly muscular. I think Diogo Montenegro, who's shorter, is actually getting a little bit too dense, and that's why he was unable to move. A guy like Erin Banks, when he's taller, he can fill up more muscle on the frame. Erin, let's go to the front pose. Just press play for me.
Well, look, wait, before you go, this right here needs to change. This is not good for the physique class. When you have like this big clump of girth in the shoulders like that, that's gonna take away from your physique, because that's the only thing you can see is these clumpy looking shoulders right there.
That gets out of symmetry. Chris is right. Let's go to the front pose, because I think that's one of the things that Erin Banks closed the gap on Brandon. Brandon, as Chris likes to say, is bubbly. So what does that mean? Phil Heath was bubbly. He had round muscle bellies, and that looks great on stage. That's a genetic gift, and Brandon Hendrickson has that. Now, in order for Erin Banks to defeat Brandon Hendrickson, what he did in his offseason was this. He filled up the chest. Once he fills up the chest, he becomes a little bit more bubbly. Is he as bubbly as Brandon Hendrickson? No. But he's able to close the gap. Before, in the 2021 Mr. Olympia, his upper chest was a deficiency. No longer is a deficiency. Right now is an advantage. He filled up on top.
For the meaning and the purpose of men's physique, looking at Charjo, looking at Ryan Terry, that to me symbolizes more of that beach body that they were trying to establish, as opposed to classic physique in long trunks.
Yeah, you got to have your mind different. It's not like open bodybuilding. It's not like classic. You got to have, when you're training, you got to have that mind frame as an artist up there putting together a physique under the criteria of the competition. So that's where you got to have a clear understanding about what to do in the gym, what not to do in the gym, what body parts to hold back, what body parts to improve.
And that's a good point, Tim. I want you to look at some of the guys that moved up. Erin Banks, who's a little bit more streamlined, beat a guy that's a little bit more dense, Brandon Hendrickson. Now you look at Charjo Grant, he's moving in the top 5. He placed 4th, and he's a little bit more streamlined. Ali Bilal, who's a little bit more dense, is out of the top 5. Chiron Holden is in 6th place, a little bit more dense. So the streamlined look is prevalent. Brandon Hendrickson needs to contain any further development and just come in a little bit tighter. And my instruction to Erin Banks is, don't change a freaking thing. Don't add anything. Don't even change your smile. Just bring the same exact look. This guy here can be very dangerous. Top 4 in one of his first Olympias, and I think he can move up real quick and start challenging Erin Banks.
You know why we got to keep him around? For who's this guy that's over here?
His name is Edivan Palmeira. Okay, he turned pro in 2018, and this is great. This guy did not make to the first call out. I can't emphasize as a judge how many people come to me after prejudging and go, should I come back? I'm like, what do you mean? Should you come back? You are competing in bodybuilding. It doesn't matter who's on the first, third, or fourth call out.
So he was competing. He was in the second call out.
He was on the second call out after these 8 guys, and he finished the show in 5th place.
And then did you move him up in the confirmation round, or how did
Absolutely. We saw him on the second call out, and we realized this guy is really good. So then what do judges do? They start bringing him with some of these guys that were on the first call out, and then we realized, hey, he's actually better than some of those guys, and he can move up. And that's what happened. This is a great example, guys. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Congratulations to these guys. Erin Banks, he said, I'm not there to make friends, Tarek. I'm not interested in befriending these other men. I'm interested in feeding my 2 children and providing to my wife. He's not there to make friends, and he'll be back in 2023 to make some more enemies.
Well, as much as we are just the facts, we are also making friends, and hopefully that's you. We'll be back after this with more Primetime Muscle.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else. Every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, you know I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on trifecta.
Primetime Muscle is back, and one of the biggest figures in our sport across all divisions. I don't even need to say it. I tried to grow a mustache over the holidays to fit in with the man himself. Chris Bumstead, Cbum. This year he had a challenger, as he always does. He has a challenger. He had Breon over the years nipping at his heels, and that was a really magical moment at the Olympia this year. Seeing Chris and Breon interact, knowing it was Breon's last time in the division.
A moment lost.
A moment lost.
I wanted to see Breon and Cbum one more time going head to head, even for a round, to see it. You know, I think it was just, they had magic with each other. That was the rumble in the jungle, so to speak. And I feel like, we missed that one. So
we did miss that, and Terrence Ruffin was out of that position where I thought he might have been battling it out too. So we had the Miracle Bear, Urs Kalecinski, and Ramon Dino. I never heard of him before. I'm kidding, of course. He went pretty head to head with Chris.
On behalf of the entire Primetime Muscle staff, we want to say that we like Ramon Dino, okay? We love Ramon Dino. I'm going to say this in Portuguese. Nós amamos o Ramon Dino. But Ramon Dino is a phenomenal competitor. However, he's facing an incredible, genetically gifted bodybuilder by the name of Chris Bumstead. And in my opinion, Chris Bumstead displayed a great deal of dominance in his performance at the 2022 Mr. Olympia. I looked at the poses with Chris, and I believe Chris Bumstead beat Ramon Dino in most poses, in some poses even convincingly. So is Ramon Dino a challenger? No doubt. However, at this point, Chris Bumstead seems to be ahead of Ramon in a very significant way.
I'm going to go ahead and prepare myself for a lot of angry DMs. So I sat in prejudge with my wife. It was her first Olympia. She was over the moon and just enjoying every minute. She's a huge Chris Bumstead fan. And I don't know, you didn't deal with this because you were always open. But if you cross over from like men's physique to classic physique and you don't really know the poses and the quarter turns, you look at the other guys. She kept grabbing my arm going, does this Ramon guy know what he's doing in this division? Because every pose he looked over at Bumstead to see, what's he doing? What's Chris doing? Where's Chris? There was a constant eye on Chris at every pose.
To me, that sounds like he knows he's more superior than him, and he's chasing after him. That's what that looking over look. I mean, you may think you're doing it, being crafty up there, but in my eyes, or judge's eyes, probably would be like, well, you're looking at him because he's more superior than you. You got to try. You're trying to follow him.
Chris is absolutely right. You should never be looking at your competitors. You should set the tone yourself. You know, I often tell competitors, you need to be the first one to hit the pose and the last one to get out of the pose. If you're looking at the guy left, what are you telling us? Do you think the guy left to you is better than you? Is that why you're looking at him? Don't ever look at other competitors. Just go ahead and do your business. And I noticed that myself. Your wife was right. You know, you can't be looking to the side. It wasn't just Ramon Dino, but it was other guys. Now, what happens is like we're talking about Sidney Gillen. You know, they developed the champions. They developed that Michael Jordan stigma, you know. I'm the greatest one. You know, if I go to the lane and somebody touches me, it should be a foul, right? So they developed that aura of invincibility. And that's why we have the expression, if you want to be the champion, you got to knock them out. You can't come in overly respecting them. You got to come in and say, hey, you don't belong here. I'm the new champion. Get the hell out of my way.
You got to take it.
Well, speaking of looking at two guys, Ramon was looking at this smirk for the better part of about 15 minutes as they went round and round.
So okay. Stop right there. So here's one thing you got to give credit. Ramon, great arms, right? Biceps. He's got huge arms. And we love biceps and triceps. And even Chris Bumstead said, that might be one of the things that I need to improve is my arms. But when you have arms that big, they look good, but they actually start overpowering your physique. Now the lats look a bit small, right? He looks just a little bit narrow on top. Chris Bumstead has this huge advantage that his clavicle bones are larger than Ramon Dino. So he is by nature wider. Now he's beating him on width, and in addition to that, Ramon Dino's arms are overpowering his width. So that's a problem that Ramon Dino needs to work. Stop working out those arms and grow your lats.
In my eyes, I'm starting, you know, with my experience, you start from the ground up. So what I look at, I'm looking at the feet. These feet right here does not compute you displaying your quads at the best, in their best development. There's no way you can have this come into a bent ankle and then trying to, you need to have some weight over here on this foot, bend the legs a little bit, and then, like you said, the arms, now we just want definition, shape, and symmetry throughout the arms. You got to display that in this pose. And he could take more advantage of his physique just by placing his feet, bringing the heel through. As you see right here, Bumstead is taking full advantage of his quad separation all up into the trunks. That's trademark of a great champion, is to utilize your physique at its finest.
As soon as you said that, Chris, instinctively, I felt my knee kicking out, my toe planting to make that lower head of the quad pop.
That's right.
So this is a big difference, though, in the muscle mass, not only the mass, the quality, the separation, the lines, but also that muscle maturity. How many years does Bumstead have on Ramon Dino?
Well, he was a great champion at the age of 22, being in the top 2 in the Olympia. So he's more, he just showed his superiority to me. That's what brought him over the edge, because every pose Dino hit, he hit it better.
Let's roll this forward just a touch, see if we can catch some of these.
Don't counsel me.
See some of these looks over as Ramon looked at him.
See, you should be just step right into that pose and to be able to hit it.
So this is one of the poses. You can stop right now, Erin. This is one of the poses that Ramon Dino has a chance of closing the gap with Chris Bumstead. Why? Because this is not a pose where Chris Bumstead is displaying his width. Right now, we are looking at density. And obviously, you see Ramon Dino's arms are impressive. He has good quads. What is Chris Bumstead doing here? He's outposing Ramon in a pose that he could lose to Ramon.
Right.
So, if you are a bodybuilder that doesn't have a lot of density, okay? You don't have a lot of density. What you should do is you should open your side chest a little bit more, so that creates a little bit of width. Ramon Dino is bringing it right here, showing his density. But what Chris Bumstead is saying to the judges is, I know you like his density, but look how wide I'm still going for this side chest. Look, he's bringing width to a pose that's traditionally about density.
Okay, so what I see, this elbow should not be this far out from that delt. He's pulling it way too far behind.
Which is making him narrow, right?
And then this arm should not be bent at the wrist. That should be straight, just like you see Bumstead. This should be straight and locked down, but this elbow should be lower and coming through and not pulling so far back behind your body like that.
Well, and it looks like with that far elbow, he's really trying to pull that pec over to get those striations out, where Chris looks like it's a little more effortless.
And Tim, we've been talking about two of the great champions of our sport, and all Chris and I have been saying is posing. Posing, posing, and posing. What Ramon Dino needs to do is to go to the gym and not lift any weights, go into a posing room with a professional, somebody that has done this, such as Chris Cormier, and teach him how to display his physique better, so then he closes the gap to Chris Bumstead. The secret for Ramon Dino is a few modifications physically, but most of them is the illusion that he's falling behind Chris by a lot.
Let's roll it ahead while you talk, Chris.
And that's the thing, is that posing is what going to separate even that, like, to do that at the end is like,
okay. Did you catch that?
I didn't laugh at that one, but you.
I don't know why they touch each other's glutes.
You need to tighten this up.
This is usually a message saying, I want to see if your glutes are striated or not.
Right.
What fascinates me is this, that, you know, it's fun, but guys, whoever hits the pose first will get the attention. You see Chris here? He got the attention. And he's gonna be still on this pose. He's not moving. That's great posing. Look at Ramon here creating some motion. Go ahead and press play. See, there's some shaking. He's gonna open again, and this is not good posing. Ramon needs to improve on that if he wants to beat the champion.
I don't think he's feeling the pose. I know we're talking a lot about his posing, but he could be so much better with just utilizing the right technique behind each pose. And so when he went in to some of these poses, I don't think he's really feeling what he should be feeling.
Now that's a beautiful pose for Ramon, but it's one of Chris's signatures, so it's really hard to go head to head.
But again, notice how Chris Bumstead hits the pose. There's no hesitation. If you go back a little bit, Erin, just go back a little bit. Go back. Back. The other way around it. Yeah, so look at this. They're both here. They're not hitting that pose. That's a traditional Arnold Schwarzenegger pose. Now look at how Chris makes his transition and he stops at the pose. Look, there's movement. They're setting it up. Chris is stopped. He's right here. He's not moving anymore.
And that comes from practice. It comes from doing it so many times. You don't have to think about it. You fall right into your pose. You know, do your thing just like that. So that's where you're going to get. Well, that's where you're going to get that type of professional.
I started going to Olympia prejudges in '98. This was my favorite Olympia year so far. And this prejudge, when Chris walked out, this was packed with thousands of people in the expo hall going just ballistic for these two going at it. So it was an exciting morning.
Yeah, it looks almost like an old FIBO looking feel.
This is the biggest bodybuilding hero in the world. His name is Chris Bumstead, and this is the biggest upcoming star in bodybuilding. His name is Ramon Dino. The third one is in open bodybuilding, and his name is Nick Walker. So the two most popular guys in our industry right now are in the same division, and they're battling for first. This one is the champion. He poses like a champion. This one is incredible, amazing, but he needs to improve his posing.
Well, lots of improvements to be made. But guys, shameless plug, super fun. I'm always drawn by this, and I was drawn by this seeing the sponsors roll on the bottom. And if you're thinking about sponsoring the Olympia, you're going to be on the pay-per-view Immortal. You're going to be on any clips that are shown by us, Olympia TV. I mean, it's kind of cool. I'm looking at this game going, oh yeah, there's
people be seeing this from years to come.
Let me just tell you, you have a guy that has 13 million followers. This guy has 5 million followers, and your logo is right here. How much money do you have to invest to get into paper when you can actually have your logo right here next to some of these guys that have millions and millions of followers. This is the Mr. Olympia, the granddaddy of them all.
Yeah, so you have to think to yourself, you know, like with a placement in a magazine, what part of the magazine am I going to be in the front cover? If your logo, like Fitburn, is next to Chris Bumstead's glutes, how much is that worth? My wife looked at those glutes the entire time, so she knows all the sponsors that came up next to Chris's glutes. I'm just saying. All right, we're going to be back talking about more divisions and more fun that we had at the Olympia with all these amazing competitors when we come back. More primetime muscle as we round out the classic physique division. There was one guy that really is one of the newcomers, up-and-comers that stood out, well-loved around the world, and that is Urs Kalecinski, you're saying?
You got it, Tim.
Oh, see?
I used to call him Kalecinski the whole time, and then I did a live with him on Olympia TV, and he said, Tarek, my name is Kalecinski. It is
Kalecinski.
a Polish name. I am German, but my heritage is Polish. Hence, now I call him Urs Kalecinski.
Well, saying it correctly, I'm sure.
Urs Kalecinski.
Kalecinski means a lot, but what an impressive young physique he's got, Chris.
Yes, he's coming up. He's needs lacking in maturity because he's not that old, but his a little bit more density, and I thought he was a little bit filmy with a little bit of water, in my opinion, but you can't ignore that he has a great potential.
Well, yeah, I agree with Chris, and here's the facts, just the facts on Primetime Muscle.
Got to see the real.
Urs Kalecinski is not a guy that's struggling on the scale. You're at that check-ins at the Olympia for Classic Physique, and guys are sweating. They're looking at, they're praying. They're looking at the judges. They're like, oh my God, am I going to make this? This past Olympia, there was guys stretching each other. People were selling testicle removers outside. It was crazy, okay?
I didn't see that.
Urs Kalecinski does not need that. He needs to gain weight, and he has about 5 to 6 pounds of weight that he can add to his frame. Meaning, what you're looking at, like Chris said, is not the real Urs Kalecinski. We're going to see that in about a year or maybe 2 years when this guy puts 6, 7 pounds of muscle on his frame and challenges Ramon and Cbum.
Well, we're going to look at him right now, but for what it's worth, I talked to Chris Bumstead, and he said, I've got 3 to 5 pounds that I could be playing with right now to improve. So let's take a look at Urs, and let's see, let's just look at his potential, because, we are seeing, okay, Chris, I'm seeing your layer of film.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's just a young guy just trying to figure out his way in the sport, and also, his posing, his training. All this stuff is coming of age of him. He's totally like, when he's lifting his arms right there, I'm not a huge fan of that. Just because, that's not his strong point. The arm's not his strong point, but you can display your physique and at all your strongest points, which is his quads, his back, the width, the shape. That's all his strong points right now. But I think for the most part, if he just keep continuing to figure out his way in the gym, in the posing room, that's just going to add to his maturity, and everything is going to be coming.
Let's pause that right there if we could. Tarek, while we're kind of, that's beautiful. Nice job. How did he, you had Breon to go through, you had Terrence Ruffin, a couple of the guys in that 6 through 10 space that really brought amazing, this is the best of the best, that qualified to be here. They won a show. How did he get in this top 5, top 3 position?
Yeah.
2021 Extreme Show in Tijuana. It was the first time, 2021, yes.
Yeah, I was there.
It was the first time that we actually saw this gentleman go on stage, and he placed second to to his fellow German competitor,
Right.
Mike Summersfield. He placed second, and he was very impressed. And that was him coming out to the world and letting people know, I'm one of the best. And then there was the first call out at the 2021 Mr. Olympia, where he was there on the first call out, and he impressed the hell out of us. So it was in the show in Tijuana. Gotta give credit to my friend Gabriel Velasco. He's the promoter of the show, and he did a great job with that show. And that's where this guy came out to the world, and we saw his potential.
Like in this pose, you can see he has the hourglass shaped body coming into a nice tight waist. The stomach is flat, and I think judges like to see that. But yeah, his posing, he pays really close attention to, and I think that's helping him, you know, making his way up through the lineup.
But you're right, with that film right there, you're not seeing the separation with, like a lot of the guys have, the lat insertion, the serratus, the obliques. You're seeing that oblique trail down into the lower ab, but you're just not seeing it.
But he's another one too. He was in shape far out from the show, and I just feel like sometimes it's gonna take away from your actual peak when you're trying to hold on to something for so long.
So then you are the reason why nobody wants to compete anymore, because, you know, if you're saying that,
you what happened.
then nobody's going to ever compete again.
No, they'll compete.
If the guy competed in January and that compromised his conditioning in December, then we're all out of business.
No,
here.
I mean, he was in shape leading up to the
Like
show.
6 weeks out.
Yeah,
but
6 weeks, 9 weeks out.
June, July.
He was posting a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, this is a film compared to what I was seeing on Instagram.
Does he not look like
he's holding a little bit of water? That's undeniable. But he competed at the Boston Pro, and he looked incredible, won that show, and he has been in shape. Now, one thing that people are not taking into consideration, everybody's like, oh, he wasn't there with Ramon and Cbum. This guy is his second Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Last year, he placed in 4th. This year, he's in 3rd. So he's moving up. He won Boston. Now he's competing and he's doing a great job. He is moving up. He is streamlined because he's tall. He needs to gain some size and become more dense, and he's holding a little bit of water. But put about 6-7 pounds on this frame and get him conditioned, and he's right there with Cbum and Ramon Dino.
He's got a good waist. He's got good shoulders. I mean, overall, he does remind me of a very, very young Dennis Wolf.
You are correct about that. If he wants to be Dennis Wolf, his quads, remember Dennis Wolf? He had the high lats, but his quads were just so impressive. When he hit that front double biceps, the flaring quads just gave his physique some density. And if Urs Kalecinsky wants to have density, he needs to get bigger on the lower half, and then on the big muscles on top is the chest and the back. The arms getting bigger, it's going to look nice, but it's not going to make a difference. It's just like Hadi Choopan. Once he hit that side chest and we saw more girth on top, we knew he was playing a different game.
Do you think he might have tried to come in a little bit bigger than what he needed to?
Oh, I think he knows full well that he's not going to be as dense as Ramon and Cbum. And trying to come in, and you know, when people come up to me and say, I'm going to come in fuller, 99% of the times they just come out of condition.
Right.
You know, the leaner you are, the bigger you look. I think he's just holding a little bit of water, and he'll be better at the 2023 Mr. Olympia in Orlando.
It's going to be interesting to see that very first weekend in November, who shows up how with the top 5. Well, this is the interesting thing. Top 5 is already qualified, but now Breon's moving up to the 212s, which is a great move for him, right, Coach?
Oh, yeah.
And we've got to point out, Breon, it was really interesting. I talked to Chris a little about it in the post interview, and then there was some great moments in interviews after the show between Chris and Breon. And Chris said, I leaned in and said, just thank you for being such an inspiration and a driving force, and you were the champion and you drove me to be better, and then I was the champion and you drove me to be better, that they'd always been kind of pushing each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just a great moment for the sport.
Yeah, it's a lot like what me and Jay Cutler had. We made each other better. And
Flex.
Yeah, for sure, Flex. Seeing him all day in the gym made each other better. That's how bodybuilding is. It's just like that.
Well, I love this. His posing is incredible. It's just such a pleasure to see that next generation. I thought the lineup there was so deep and so beautiful and classic. And the posing, as always, is such a pleasure. Guys, we got to wrap. This flies by.
Urs Kalecinski, watch out for him. He can make an impact in 2023. This is not only about Cbum and Ramon, Tim.
Yeah, just keep in mind, get that chiseled look. It's better to bring that than going overboard with the water and all the extra carbs.
And especially in this division, don't give up conditioning for size. And, well, speaking of size, the size of our time is out. As always, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends that love the sport. Across all divisions, Primetime Muscle is the go-to show. And as always, the road to the Olympia. You guys can still hit that. We will see you next time. Tim Wilkins, The Real Deal Chris Cormier, Tarek El Guindy. Next time on Primetime Muscle.